When I first got my Pocket 2, I thought it was the best pocket gimbal camera ever made. That was a year ago, and since then, I've changed my mind. Now don't get me wrong, if you saw my full Pocket 2 review, link below, most of the things I said I liked about this camera still stand. But in this video, I'm going to try to explain to you why 1 year on, I think there's a better alternative on the market. But first, what do I like about this camera? Well, it's a 4K 60fps mechanically stabilized video camera that's the size of a Snickers bar. That's just nuts. The larger sensor and sharp f1.8 lens produce beautiful footage, and the implementation of a gimbal allows for far superior low-light footage than any software-stabilized action camera can provide. The menu is well designed and easy to navigate, even on a tiny display like this. The joystick is a nice addition, but its non-proportional control is no match for the controller wheel. Fortunately, the old controller wheel still works on the Pocket 2 and gives us very smooth pan and tilt control. The audio is greatly improved over the Pocket 1, which makes a big difference for vloggers. The slow motion is smooth at 120 frames per second, but it's cropped and limited to just 1080p. It's nice to also have a 240 FPS option, but the crop and reduction in quality are even greater. Battery life is really good and the heat dissipation is fantastic. It's also a very reliable camera. I have no issues with the OS crashing, freezing, or losing my files. It's been rock solid for me. Now for my dislikes. Immediately upon unboxing this device, all new owners of the camera are forced to create a DJI account and register the camera. This involves giving the company your personal details, as well as access to certain personal data on your phone. If you decline, you won't be allowed to use the camera more than 5 times. This forced registration practice and data collection is something that I'm not okay with. Just like the Pocket 1, the Pocket 2 doesn't have Wi-Fi or Bluetooth built in. This was a big disappointment for me. When cameras like the cheaper FeiyuTech and FeiyuTech Pocket do have built-in wireless, I can't think of any reason DJI would leave it out of the Pocket 2 other than to drive people to spend more money buying the do-it-all handle. And I still think that thing makes the camera too long and look a bit silly. The modular snap-on tripod socket was and still is a real annoyance for me. After a full year of use, mine is still super difficult and sometimes painful to remove. DJI promised the Pocket 2 would have far superior object tracking to the Pocket 1, but in reality, it was terrible, and it still is. We all waited in hope that they would fix it via firmware, but even a full year later, unfortunately, they haven't been able to do that. In fact, there have been so few firmware updates that it almost feels like they just abandoned this camera altogether. The Pocket 1's tracking was so good that I used it in some of my product reviews because it could lock onto an object and smoothly track it as I moved the camera around the object. It would let me get some pretty cool shots. On the Pocket 2, I can't do that because the tracking is jerky and unreliable. At $350 US, the price might seem pretty reasonable, but if you want wireless connectivity, and most people will, that price goes up to $500 US. Is it worth $500 US? Personally, I don't think it is. Not with the shortcomings that it has. It just doesn't seem like good value, in my opinion. So what's the alternative? What's the camera that I think is a better purchase? The Pocket 1, of course. And for a long time I didn't feel that way, but now that the Pocket 1 is just $200 US at places like Amazon, and as low as $130 US in the used or open box market, I think the Pocket 1 is the better buy. It does most of what the Pocket 2 can do, and aside from the money you save, you're getting object tracking that's far superior. And after having compared many hours of footage from the Pocket 1 and Pocket 2, there's just something magical about the look that the Pocket 1 can produce. The colors are often warmer, and many people, including myself in some situations, feel that the footage just looks more cinematic. On the rapid timeline of tech, it's a fairly old camera now, and as such it's often overlooked. But hidden in the shadows of the overconfident but undercompetent Pocket 2 is this little inexpensive cinematic gem. And if I could go back in time, I would never have sold it. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.